Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. I just started reading a book about Conrad Dobler, offensive lineman for the St. Louis Cardinals football team, called They Call Me Dirty. That had been given to me probably back in the 1980s or 90s as a Christmas present. I'm finally getting around to reading it. I'm finally getting around to reading books, and I'm just going to pass these books on to other people. So once they're read, I don't need to keep them. But anyway, I remember Conrad Dobler, and it was on the same line with Tom Banks and Dan Deerdorf. And the Cardinals of 1977 looked like a team that could have contended for the Super Bowl in the beginning. Thanksgiving Day, they hosted the Miami Dolphins. Bob Greasy probably had one of the best games he ever had in throwing touchdown passes. He threw 6 in that game. They wiped out the Cardinals 55-14. And close to the end of the game, there was a rookie defensive player that Dobler kept having problems with. It was just hitting hard and everything else, and he made some comments about their football team. So Conrad Dobler was saying to some other men on the line, let's get him. Let's hit him hard. So Tom Banks hit him really hard, and then Conrad Dobler got in on it too. And well, after that, that guy was going to get back at Conrad Dobler, and actually on the next play, a guy was trying to go after him, and with him and another guy were trying to go after Conrad Dobler, and Conrad Dobler was trying to get out of the way, and he ended up getting penalized by the official. Well, he got mad and got into it with the official, and the official pushed him first, and he pushed the official. Then he showed a footage where he claimed that the cable from something got caught around the coach Jim Hanifin's head, and it looked like he had knocked the headset off of Jim Hanifin. But actually, from what he said, he's trying to get his hand out of what was caught in the cable thing that caused the headset to come off. And then Conrad Dobler also got mad and threw his football helmet at the audience. Remember that? But it was quite a rampage, and I did read that it caused a big brawl, and when they went to New York to play the Giants, they had him stay in New York for an extra day so he'd have a meeting with Pete Rozelle about the about what happened. And Pete Rozelle talked to him for a little while, and then brought in Art McNally, the head of the officials, and they spliced all kinds of dirty hits he made, and he was like, if you did every player in the NFL, you wouldn't have an NFL. But anyway, he ended up being penalized for that. But at the time when they lost to the Miami Dolphins, the Cardinals were 7-3, and they next went to New York and lost to the Giants 27-7. Then they lost to the Redskins at home 26-20, and they went to Tampa and lost 17-7 to the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers' existence, that was only the second game that Tampa Bay had won. They had won the previous one against the Saints. That was their first win. In the two seasons that they were around, the Buccaneers basically won their last 2 games. But it knocked the Cardinals out of the playoffs. They ended up with a 7-7 record, and their coach Don Coryell ended up being fired, and they started out in 1978 with Bud Wilkinson. The team looked like it was going the beginning was struggling, and then he started getting them on a winning streak towards the end, and then 1979 he kind of fell down again, and then ended up firing Bud Wilkinson before the season ended up ending, and Larry Wilson, I believe, was the general manager or something higher up position with the Cardinals. We ended up being like the interim coach for the rest of the year. Then they brought in Jim Hanifin as their head coach. But anyway, that was the incident with Conrad Dobler on Thanksgiving. It's very memorable. I was trying to see if I could find any footage on it, and I didn't see any footage on that. But I remember it very well. And I was reading in the very beginning of the foreword in the book. Conrad Dobler talks about that incident, and like I said, looking for ideas on shows to do in the future, shows about preserving history, especially obscure aspects of history. This is definitely one of the obscure ones. And that being said, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.